Hello and welcome to another episode of Audio Series. Before we begin, I'd like to thank you all for following our channel and excited to listen every new series of this channel. Also, thank you for helping it grow. So let's begin. Chapter 1. The Haunting at Concha Cruz Drive. Mark, a young man in his late 20s, was cruising inside BF Homes subdivision in Paranux City, along with his two pals. They were speeding along at about 40 km/h on a quarter-mile long road known to BF homeowners as Concha Cruz Drive. This long stretch of asphalt used to be the venue for drag races among teenagers in the early 80s. Ronnie, one of Mark's friends riding with him, motioned for them to stop. He wanted to relieve himself by the grassy area along the right side of the road. It was nearly midnight, and all was quite as usual. There was not a car in sight. After Ronnie finished doing his business, the group went back on the road, cruising along Concha Cruz on their way to El Grande Avenue to bring home their friend Jen. About 200 meters before the nearest intersection, they were surprised when a black sedan pulled up along their right side. Its windows were heavily tinted so that neither Mark nor his friends could see into it. The black car stopped right next to Mark's, obviously spoiling for a drag race. Mark, the son of a race car driver, was just too ready to oblige the unknown challenger. As both car drivers gunned their engines repeatedly, the three young boys noticed the window of the black car slowly being rolled down. Mark and Jen rolled down their own window to see who they were racing against. What they see inside chilled their blood. Inside the black sedan, Mark and Jen saw a young man and a young woman, dressed totally in white, their clothes drenched in fresh blood. Their ashen faces streaked with blood that seemed 70% be pouring from head wounds. Both lay lifeless on their seats, looking like victims of an accident, with their bloodshot eyes staring unseeingly ahead. Mark immediately stepped on the gas pedal and sped away from the sedan, which remained motionless. When Jen looked back, he saw nothing but pitch darkness, with only the light from a lamppost flickering feebly in the distance. They rushed to the nearest house on Concha Cruz, where they knocked frantically until someone finally opened up for them and let them inside. All three were shaking from head to toe, pale from absolute fright. Upon hearing what happened, the lady who let them in, Mrs. Tirona, told them to sit down and listen to a story. During the early 80s, Concha Cruz was the place to be if you were a race car enthusiast. Teenagers beginning at 9 in the evening would converge at a certain portion of the road to drink beer, play some loud music from their expensive car stereos, and rev up their loaded engines. Most of them lived in BF Homes and adjacent subdivisions. Eric, not his real name, was one of the top racers of the bunch. He drove a jet black Toyota Macho machine which his father gave him for his 23rd birthday. One Sunday afternoon, Eric and his girlfriend Janina were cruising down Concha Cruz Drive when a rival racer, Bernard, pulled up at his side and challenged him to a race. The two cars were right at the very spot where the starting line was drawn. Eric tried to beg off at the request of Janina, but Bernard was insistent. Eventually, he managed to provoke Eric into accepting challenge. As the two drivers gunned their engines, Janina tried to strap on her seatbelt, asking Eric to do the same. But before she could do so, the two cars lurched ahead, careering down Concha Cruz Drive at top speed. All of a sudden, one of Bernard's tires blew out. As the car swerved and skidded off the road at close to 100 kilometers an hour, Bernard's car hit Eric's Toyota, crashing the black sedan into one of the trees. Without the seatbelts to protect them, Eric and Janina had no chance of surviving. Eric died instantly from massive head and facial injuries. Janina's head cracked open on impact when she hit the dashboard. She died a few hours later on an operating table. Bernard walked away with only minor bruises. Eric and Janina were dressed in white during their burial. The black car still haunts Concha Cruz Drive to this day. Sometimes there are witnesses who claim they still see Eric and Janina drive down the street, flagging down cars driven by teenagers, showing the kids their wounds. It's probably their way of warning kids not to race down Concha Cruz Drive.